The Deathworlder fleet drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space. Their black ships, sharp and menacing, moved like shadows, feared by every species in the galaxy. The fleet was known for its strength, intelligence, and brutal efficiency. No one dared to call on the Deathworlders for help. Until now. It was a quiet shift on the flagship Iron Vengeance. Commander Drake, a tall and intimidating man with a scar running across his cheek, sat in his command chair. His sharp blue eyes scanned the vast screen in front of him, showing the endless expanse of stars. The crew worked in silence, their focus unshaken, when suddenly, a sharp alarm broke through the stillness. "Commander, we're receiving an incoming signal," said Lieutenant Rhea, her voice tense. She was young but sharp, one of the fleet's best communication officers. Drake straightened in his chair. "A signal? From where?" "It's coming from deep space, sir," she replied, her hands flying over the console. "It's weak, but it seems like a distress call." The word distress made everyone in the control room pause. Aliens rarely reached out to the Deathworlders for aid. The fleet's reputation was that of conquerors, not saviors. Who would dare call them? And why? "Put it on speakers," Drake ordered. A faint, crackling voice filled the room. It was alien, unfamiliar, and desperate. "Help us, please, before it's too late." The transmission broke off into static, but not before the entire crew felt the raw fear in the voice. Drake frowned. "Can you clean up the signal? I need to know more." Rhea nodded and worked quickly to stabilize the message. As she worked, the room buzzed with quiet whispers. The crew exchanged nervous glances, each wondering the same thing. What kind of situation could force an alien race to reach out to them? "Commander, I've isolated parts of the message," Rhea said after a few minutes. "It's incomplete, but this is what I got." The voice played again, clearer this time. "We? Under attack. No escape. They're coming. Help us, please." "They?" Drake repeated, his voice cold and calculated. "Who are they?" "That's all we have, sir," Rhea replied, shaking her head. "The rest is too damaged." Drake turned to his second-in-command, Captain Voss. "What do you make of this?" Voss, a grizzled veteran with years of experience, stroked his gray beard. "Could be a trap, Commander. Plenty of alien races would love to see us destroyed. But what if it's not?" Drake countered. "What if this is real?" The room fell silent again. The Deathworlders weren't known for mercy, but they also weren't cowards. If someone needed help, and if the threat was big enough to scare another species, then it was worth investigating. "Lieutenant Rhea, can you locate the source of the signal?" Drake asked. "Yes, sir," she replied, typing rapidly. After a moment, she looked up, her face pale. "The signal is coming from the edge of the Helios system. That region is mostly uncharted." But what?" Drake demanded. "There's something odd," she said, hesitating. "The signal is coming from a star system that's dying. The sun there is unstable, and it's collapsing into a black hole." A murmur ran through the room. A dying system. Why would anyone be there? "Send a probe," Drake ordered. "I want eyes on that system." Minutes later, a sleek, black probe launched from the Iron Vengeance, speeding through space toward the signal source. The crew watched as data began streaming back. The star at the heart of the system was massive and glowing an eerie red, its edges pulsing with unstable energy. Surrounding it were the shattered remains of planets, floating aimlessly in the void. "Sir, the probe has found something," Rhea said, her voice trembling slightly. "There's a planet near the signal's origin. It's broken. The surface looks like it's been bombarded, and there's debris everywhere." "Life signs?" Drake asked. "None detected so far," she replied. "But the signal is definitely coming from that planet." Drake leaned forward, his mind racing. A dying star, a shattered planet, and a desperate call for help. It was a combination that screamed danger, but also opportunity. The Deathworlders thrived in situations others feared. "Commander," Voss said, stepping closer, "if we go, we need to be ready for anything. This could be a trap, or worse, it could be something we've never seen before." Drake nodded. "I understand. Prepare the fleet. We'll investigate the signal, but with full combat readiness. If this is a trap, they'll regret calling us." As the crew began their preparations, Drake stared at the screen, his eyes locked on the distant star system. Deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible awaited them. "Whoever sent that signal," he muttered under his breath, "must have been truly desperate. Let's find out why." The Deathworlder fleet powered up their engines, their ships glowing with an ominous light. In the cold void of space, the line between savior and destroyer blurred. What awaited them in the Helios system, only time would tell. Decoding the danger. The Deathworlder fleet moved swiftly through the void, engines burning bright as they closed in on the Helios system. The weak distress signal continued to echo, growing fainter with each passing moment. On the Iron Vengeance, Commander Drake stood in the command center, arms crossed, watching the latest data stream in from the probe. "Lieutenant Rhea, any updates?" Drake asked, his voice firm. "Yes, Commander," Rhea replied, her fingers dancing over the console. "The probe is detecting strange anomalies near the planet. It's almost like echoes of the signal, but they're distorted." "Distorted how?" "They seem scrambled," Rhea explained, "like parts of the message were deliberately erased. But there's something else, sir, faint, almost hidden, like someone didn't want it to be found." Drake frowned. "Play it." Rhea nodded and activated the playback. The room filled with faint whispers, eerie and fragmented. Most of the words were incomprehensible, but one thing was clear: fear. "Run it through the filters," Drake ordered. "Let's see if we can make any sense of this." Rhea worked quickly, enhancing the audio. After a few tense moments, the whispers became clearer. A single phrase stood out, repeated again and again. "They're coming. They're coming. There's no escape." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Commander Drake's expression remained stoic, but inside, he felt a twinge of unease. The Deathworlders were known for their fearlessness, but this was something else. What could scare them so badly? Murmured Ensign Malik, one of the younger officers. "Focus on your station," Captain Voss snapped, silencing the room. Drake turned to Rhea. "Can we get a visual on the source of the signal?" "I'm trying, sir," Rhea replied. "The probe is scanning the planet now, but there's interference. It's like something is jamming the signal." "Something, or someone," Voss muttered. Moments later, the screen lit up with grainy footage from the probe. The planet below was a wasteland. Its surface was scarred with massive craters, as if it had been bombarded for centuries. Gigantic, jagged spires of black rock jutted into the sky, casting long shadows across the desolate terrain. "There," Rhea said, pointing to a section of the footage. "That's where the signal is strongest." The image zoomed in, revealing a crumbling structure half buried in rubble. It looked ancient, yet parts of it still pulsed faintly with blue light. "It's a beacon," Rhea confirmed. "But it's old. Older than anything I've seen before." "Life signs?" Drake asked. "None detected, sir," Rhea replied. "But the beacon is active. Someone, or something, turned it on." Drake nodded, his mind racing. Could this be a trap? "It's possible," Voss said, his tone grim. "The planet's surface has clearly seen heavy fighting. If this is some kind of lure, they've gone to great lengths to make it convincing. But why erase parts of the message?" Drake wondered aloud. "If it's a trap, wouldn't they want us to hear everything?" "Unless," Rhea interjected, "someone was trying to warn us, and they didn't want the real enemy to know." The room fell silent at her words. It was a chilling thought, that whoever sent the distress call wasn't just asking for help, but also hiding from something far worse. "Commander," said another officer, breaking the silence, "we're picking up faint energy readings near the beacon. They're unstable, but they don't match anything we've seen before." Drake's eyes narrowed. "What kind of energy?" "Hard to say, sir. It's not natural. It's artificial, but advanced. Way beyond anything we have." "Could it be a weapon?" Voss asked. "Possibly," the officer replied. "Or maybe a defense system." Drake considered his options. The Deathworlders weren't known for caution, but this situation was unlike anything they'd faced before. "Prepare an away team," he said finally. "We're going down there to investigate." "Sir, are you sure that's wise?" Voss asked. "We don't know what's waiting for us down there." "That's exactly why we're going," Drake replied. "If there's a threat here, we need to know what it is. And if it's strong enough to scare whoever sent that signal, we can't afford to ignore it." As the crew prepared for the mission, the faint whispers from the distress call continued to echo in the background. "They're coming. They're coming." Drake stood at the viewport, staring at the shattered planet below. Whatever secrets it held, he was determined to uncover them. The descent to the unknown. The Deathworlder fleet orbited the barren planet, its jagged surface illuminated by the dim light of a distant star. On board the Iron Vengeance, Commander Drake and his hand-picked away team stood in the docking bay, suited up and ready for deployment. The tension was palpable. Even the most seasoned soldiers in the team couldn't shake the unease that came with answering a distress call like this. Drake addressed the group, his voice calm but commanding. "Our mission is simple. Locate the source of the signal, investigate the beacon, and determine if there's any immediate threat. Stay alert. We don't know what's down there, and I won't tolerate mistakes." "Yes, Commander," the team replied in unison. The dropship hummed to life as they boarded. Lieutenant Rhea, piloting the craft, checked the systems. "Atmosphere is thin but breathable," she reported. "Gravity stable. No signs of life near the landing zone, but the interference is still messing with our sensors." "Understood," Drake said as he strapped in. "Take us down." The dropship descended through the planet's atmosphere, turbulence rattling the hull. Below, the terrain became clearer, a desolate wasteland of blackened rock and craters, stretching as far as the eye could see. "Look at those scars," murmured Corporal Lin, one of the younger soldiers. "What kind of war leaves a place looking like that?" "A war where no one wins," Rhea replied grimly. As they approached the beacon's location, the ship's systems began to flicker. "We're getting interference again," Rhea said, her hands tightening on the controls. "Something's disrupting our electronics." "Can you land us safely?" Drake asked. "Barely," Rhea replied. "But it's going to be rough." The dropship touched down with a jarring thud near the crumbling structure. Outside, the air shimmered faintly, as if the very atmosphere was alive with energy. Drake was the first to step out, his boots crunching against the brittle ground. The structure loomed ahead, its glowing blue veins pulsating like a heartbeat. It was massive, ancient, and eerily quiet. "Fan out," Drake ordered. "Keep your weapons ready and your eyes open." The team spread out, moving cautiously toward the beacon. As they approached, the glow intensified, casting long shadows across the broken landscape. "Commander," Rhea called out, studying her scanner. "There's a power source inside. It's small, but it's active. Whatever's running this thing, it's not dead yet." Drake nodded. "Let's get inside. Corporal Lin, take point." Lin led the way, his rifle raised. The entrance to the structure was partially collapsed, forcing them to climb over debris. Inside, the air was cooler, and the blue light seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. "It's beautiful," Lin whispered, his voice echoing. "And unsettling," Rhea added. "This technology, it's far beyond anything we've ever encountered." As they ventured deeper, they found themselves in a massive chamber. At its center was the beacon, a towering spire of intricate design, covered in glowing symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "What is this place?" Lynn asked, awe in his voice. "A warning," Drake said, his gaze fixed on the spire. "Look at the carvings." The walls were lined with depictions of strange creatures and star systems. One image showed a peaceful civilization, thriving and bright. But the next carving told a different story, an unstoppable force descending upon them, leaving only destruction in its wake. "It's a story," Rhea realized. "They're trying to tell us what happened here." Drake stepped closer to the spire. The symbols glowed brighter, almost as if they were reacting to his presence. Suddenly, the chamber trembled. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. "Commander," Rhea shouted, her scanner beeping wildly. "Something's activating." Drake turned to the team. "Fall back. Now." But before they could retreat, the spire emitted a blinding burst of light. The team shielded their eyes as the hum reached a deafening pitch. When the light faded, the room was silent once more. But something had changed. "Commander," Lynn whispered, his voice trembling. "Look at the spire." The symbols on the beacon had stopped shifting. Instead, they displayed a single, chilling image, a fleet of massive ships, dark and menacing, descending upon a planet that looked eerily like Earth. "It's a warning," Rhea said, her voice barely audible. "Whatever destroyed this world, it's coming for us next." The hidden truth. The silence in the chamber was deafening, broken only by the hum of the glowing spire. Commander Drake stared at the image, a fleet of dark, alien ships closing in on Earth. His heart sank. "What does this mean?" Corporal Lynn asked, his voice shaking. "Are we next?" Drake turned to Rhea, who was frantically scanning the beacon. "What's happening, Lieutenant? Can we shut this thing down?" "I don't think we want to shut it down," Rhea replied, her face pale. "This isn't just a warning, Commander. It's a message, a distress signal sent across the stars. But I think we've triggered something that's watching us." Drake frowned. "Watching us? Be specific, Lieutenant." Rhea pointed to her scanner. "There's an energy spike coming from beneath us. Something massive is powering up. And it's not just the beacon. I think there's a whole facility under this structure, something ancient and alive." Lynn took a step back, gripping his rifle tightly. "Alive? What does that even mean? Are we dealing with machines, or something else?" Before Rhea could answer, the chamber trembled again, more violently this time. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling as the spire emitted another pulse of light. "Commander," Lynn shouted, aiming his weapon at the spire, "we need to get out of here." "Hold your position," Drake ordered, his voice firm. "We need answers first. Rhea, can you decode the symbols? Figure out what's powering this place." Rhea hesitated, her fingers flying over her scanner. "I'll try, but we're running out of time." As Rhea worked, the symbols on the spire began to shift again, faster and more erratic. The team watched in uneasy silence as new images appeared. One showed the alien civilization building vast cities, their technology far more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen. The next showed their downfall, a shadowy force descending upon them, consuming everything in its path. Then came the final image, a lone alien figure standing against the destruction, sending out a desperate signal before everything went dark. "They were trying to warn someone," Rhea said softly. "Maybe us, maybe anyone who would listen. But whatever they were fighting, it was unstoppable." "Commander," Lynn said, his voice low, "what if we've just drawn its attention? What if we've doomed ourselves by coming here?" Drake didn't answer. His mind raced, trying to piece together the implications. The Deathworlders were known for their resilience, their ability to face any threat head-on. But this was something different. Suddenly, Rhea gasped. "Commander, the signal. It's not just sending out a warning. It's calling for something." Drake's eyes narrowed. "Calling for what?" Before Rhea could respond, The ground beneath them shook violently, knocking everyone off their feet. A low, guttural sound echoed through the chamber, like the groan of a waking giant. "Commander," Rhea yelled, struggling to stand. "Energy levels are spiking. Whatever's below us, it's coming online." "Fall back to the dropship," Drake ordered, helping Lynn to his feet. "Now." The team scrambled out of the chamber, climbing over the debris as the tremors grew stronger. Outside, the once quiet wasteland was alive with activity. Blue veins of light spread across the ground, pulsating in rhythm with the beacon's glow. As they reached the dropship, Rhea stopped abruptly, staring at her scanner in disbelief. "Commander," she said, her voice trembling, "we're not alone." Drake followed her gaze. In the distance, dark shapes were emerging from the ground. Massive, mechanical constructs that looked like sentinels. Their eyes glowed with the same blue light as the beacon. "They're waking up," Lynn whispered. Drake clenched his jaw. "Get on the ship. We need to warn the fleet." The team rushed aboard as the dropship roared to life. Rhea pushed the engines to their limit, lifting off just as one of the sentinels turned its glowing gaze toward them. From above, they could see the ground shifting and breaking apart. More sentinels were rising, their massive forms casting long shadows across the barren landscape. "This isn't just a warning," Rhea said, her voice grim. "It's a trap. And we just triggered it." The enemy revealed. The dropship tore through the alien sky, engines roaring at maximum thrust. Inside, the team was silent, the weight of what they had witnessed hanging heavy in the air. The glowing sentinels, the pulsating beacon, the images of a civilization's destruction. It all pointed to a single, horrifying conclusion. Commander Drake stared out of the cockpit window as Rhea piloted the craft. "Rhea, patch me through to the fleet," he ordered, his voice tight. Rhea nodded, flipping a series of switches. "You're live, Commander." "This is Commander Drake," he said, addressing the fleet. "We've activated something on the surface, some kind of ancient defense system. Hostile constructs are emerging. This is not a drill. Prepare for immediate engagement." The response was swift. Voices crackled over the comms, reporting ships moving into defensive formations. The Deathworlder fleet was always ready for a fight, but this was unlike anything they had faced before. "Commander," Lynn said, clutching his rifle tightly, "do you really think those things are just a defense system?" They seemed aware, like they were waiting for us. Drake frowned. "I don't know, Corporal. But whatever they are, they're waking up, and they're not happy to see us." Before Lynn could respond, the ship's alarms blared. "Incoming hostiles," Rhea shouted. Drake turned to the cockpit window. A swarm of alien constructs was rising into the air, their sleek, metallic forms glowing with the same blue energy as the sentinels. "They're airborne," Rhea said, her hand steady on the controls. "And fast. Evasive maneuvers." Drake barked. "Lynn, get to the turret." Lynn bolted to the ship's rear, manning the turret as the constructs closed in. The first wave fired energy blasts, narrowly missing the dropship. "Hang on," Rhea shouted, veering sharply to the left. The ship jolted, throwing Drake against the wall. Lynn opened fire, his shots finding their mark. 2 constructs exploded in a flash of blue light, but more kept coming. "They just keep multiplying," Lynn yelled. Drake clenched his fists. "Rhea, can we outrun them?" "Not for long," she admitted. "They're too fast." "Then we fight," Drake said grimly. "Rhea, get us close to the fleet. We'll need cover fire." As the dropship approached the Deathworlder fleet, the constructs swarmed closer, their energy blasts grazing the ship's hull. Lynn continued firing, taking down several more, but it was clear they were outnumbered. "Commander," Rhea said, her voice tense, "I'm picking up another energy signature, much bigger this time. It's coming from the surface." Drake's stomach tightened. "What now?" Rhea pointed to the radar. It's massive, Commander. If I'm reading this right, something is rising out of the ground. A central structure, maybe a command unit. Drake turned to Lynn. Keep firing. We need to buy the fleet time to prepare. As the ship neared the fleet, the larger alien structure came into view on the surface. It was colossal, dwarfing the Sentinels. Its spire reached high into the sky, glowing brighter with every passing second. It's a control hub, Rhea said, her voice shaking. The constructs are being directed from there. Drake's jaw tightened. Then we'll need to take it out. Rhea, can you pinpoint its weak spot? I can try, she said, frantically scanning the data. Just then, a deafening roar echoed through the comms. Drake turned to the fleet's viewport and saw one of their cruisers erupt in flames. They're hitting the fleet, Lynn shouted. The constructs had shifted their focus, swarming the larger ships. The fleet fought back, their weapons lighting up the dark sky, but the constructs moved with precision, evading most of the attacks. They're coordinated, Drake muttered. Too coordinated. That hub is controlling everything. Rhea's scanner beeped. Got it, she said. The hub's energy core is exposed at the base, but it's heavily shielded. We'd need a direct hit with something powerful. Drake nodded. Relay the coordinates to the fleet. If we can destroy the hub, we can stop the constructs. Rhea quickly transmitted the data. Over the comms, the fleet's admiral responded. Acknowledged, Commander. We'll focus fire on the target, but you'll need to clear a path for us. Drake turned to his team. You heard the man. Let's buy them some time. The dropship dove back toward the fray, Lynn firing relentlessly at the constructs swarming the fleet. The tension was palpable, each second feeling like an eternity as they fought to protect the fleet and destroy the hub. The battle for survival. The Deathworlder fleet unleashed its full arsenal, targeting the colossal alien hub below. Bright streaks of plasma fire rained down on the surface, lighting up the sky. Explosions echoed across the alien terrain as the constructs swarmed to protect their central structure. Commander Drake gripped the edge of his seat as their dropship dodged incoming energy blasts. Lynn was still at the turret, firing at the constructs, but their numbers seemed endless. Rhea, status report, Drake barked. The fleet's focused on the hub, she replied, her voice tight with concentration. But those shields are holding. We need to weaken it, or they'll never get through. Drake's mind raced. Suggestions. We need to get close enough to disrupt the shields from within, Rhea said. I can overload their energy grid if we deploy an EMP pulse directly into their power conduit. Drake nodded. How close? Too close, Rhea admitted, glancing at him. We'll need to land at the base of the hub. Drake looked out the window. The hub was swarming with constructs, their metallic forms weaving through the chaos with deadly precision. Landing there would be a suicide mission. Commander, Lynn called from the turret. We can't hold them off much longer. They're adapting to our firepower. Drake clenched his fists. Rhea, take us in. Lynn, be ready to cover us. The dropship dove toward the surface, dodging bursts of energy fire. Constructs chased them relentlessly, their glowing forms a blur against the backdrop of explosions. As they approached the hub, the sheer scale of the structure became clear. Its spire pulsed with energy, casting an eerie blue glow over the battlefield. Brace yourselves, Rhea shouted as the dropship touched down with a heavy thud. The ramp lowered, and Drake and his team charged out, weapons drawn. Constructs swarmed toward them, their energy weapons firing in rapid bursts. Hold the line, Drake shouted, firing his plasma rifle. Lynn and the others formed a defensive perimeter, their weapons lighting up the darkness as they fought to keep the constructs at bay. Rhea sprinted toward the base of the hub, a compact EMP device in her hands. Cover me, she yelled. Drake moved to her side, firing at the constructs closing in. How long do you need? 5 minutes, she replied, crouching by the power conduit. Sparks flew as she worked, her hands moving with practiced precision. "We don't have 5 minutes," Lynn shouted, blasting a construct that had broken through the perimeter. Drake's heart pounded as the constructs pressed closer. For every one they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The air was filled with the hum of energy weapons and the deafening roar of explosions. "Rhea, hurry," Drake urged, firing at a construct that had nearly reached her. "I'm almost there," she said, her voice strained. Suddenly, a massive construct emerged from the shadows. It was larger than the others, its sleek frame bristling with weapons. It let out a deep, resonant hum, and the team's weapons faltered. "What the hell is that?" Lynn shouted. "It's a command unit," Rhea said, glancing up. "It's protecting the hub." The construct fired, a massive energy blast slamming into the ground near the team. Drake was thrown off his feet, his ears ringing. "Commander, we can't hold this position," Lynn yelled, dragging Drake to his feet. Drake gritted his teeth. "We don't have a choice. Hold them off as long as you can." The command unit advanced, its glowing eyes fixed on Rhea. Drake fired at it, but his shots barely made a dent. "Rhea, now would be a good time to finish," he shouted. "Just one more connection," she replied, her hands flying over the EMP device. The command unit raised its weapon, aiming directly at her. Drake's chest tightened. If it fired, they'd lose everything. With a roar, Drake charged at the construct, firing his rifle at its glowing core. The shots distracted it just enough for Lynn to flank it, targeting its legs. "Rhea, go," Drake yelled. The EMP device activated with a loud hum, and a shockwave rippled through the battlefield. The constructs froze, their glowing eyes flickering before they collapsed to the ground. The hub's shields flickered and died. "This is Drake," he shouted into his comms. "The shields are down. Fleet, take the shot." Above them, the fleet's largest cruiser fired a massive plasma beam. It struck the hub directly in its core, and the structure erupted in a blinding explosion. The team shielded their eyes as debris rained down around them. When the dust settled, the battlefield was eerily quiet. Hook for next part. The hub is destroyed, but the battle is far from over. As the team regroups, they discover a new threat hidden within the ruins, something even more dangerous than the constructs. What secrets has the hub left behind, and what will it mean for humanity? The final revelation. The battlefield was silent, save for the faint hum of dying energy pulses. The once mighty hub lay in ruins, its shattered spire casting long shadows over the charred ground. Smoke curled into the air, mingling with the glow of distant fires. Commander Drake's team stood amidst the wreckage, their breaths heavy, their faces smeared with soot. They had won the battle, or so they thought. "Status?" Drake asked, his voice hoarse. "Constructs are down," Lynn reported, scanning the area with her rifle. "But I don't like this. It's too quiet." Rhea stepped forward, clutching her scanner. "I'm picking up something. Odd," she said, her brow furrowed. "There's still energy coming from the core of the hub. It shouldn't be active." Drake frowned. Could it be a backup system? "No," Rhea replied, shaking her head. "It's something else. The signal is alive." "Alive?" Lynn echoed, her grip tightening on her weapon. Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. A low rumble grew into a deafening roar as a massive structure began to rise from the ruins of the hub. It was sleek and alien, its surface covered in glowing, pulsating veins of light. "What the hell is that?" Lynn shouted, stumbling back. Rhea stared at her scanner, her face pale. "It's a ship." The hub wasn't just a base, it was a launch pad. The colossal alien vessel broke free from the debris, its engines roaring to life. It hovered above them, its sheer size casting the battlefield into shadow. Drake's heart sank. "Fleet Command, this is Drake. We've got a problem. The hub wasn't the endgame. There's a ship, and it's powering up." The fleet's response crackled through the comms. Acknowledged, Commander. We're targeting it now. Above them, the Deathworlder fleet repositioned, their weapons locking onto the alien ship. But before they could fire, the vessel unleashed a pulse of blinding energy. The Deathworlder ships faltered, their systems shorting out one by one. Sparks flew across their hulls as the fleet was left vulnerable, drifting in space. They've disabled the fleet, Rhea shouted, her voice laced with panic. Drake clenched his fists. We can't let it escape. Rhea, is there any way to stop it from here? She hesitated, her eyes darting to the alien ship. There's one option, but it's risky. If we can overload its core, it'll cause a chain reaction. But someone has to get inside. Drake nodded grimly. We don't have a choice. Lynn, Rhea, you're with me. The rest of you, hold this position and cover us. The team moved quickly, navigating the unstable ruins as the alien ship began to ascend. Constructs that had been dormant suddenly reactivated, swarming toward them with renewed ferocity. Here we go again, Lynn muttered, firing her rifle. Drake led the charge, blasting a path through the constructs. They reached a hatch on the ship's underside, and Rhea worked frantically to override the alien lock. Hurry, Drake urged as more constructs closed in. The hatch finally hissed open, and the team scrambled inside. The interior of the ship was otherworldly, walls pulsing with light, corridors twisting in unnatural angles. Rhea studied her scanner. The core is this way. Stay close. As they moved deeper into the ship, the temperature rose, and the air grew thick with an oppressive energy. They finally reached the core, a massive, glowing sphere suspended in the center of a cavernous chamber. This is it, Rhea said, setting up the device she had carried. Once I activate this, we'll have 5 minutes to get out. Do it, Drake ordered, keeping his weapon trained on the entrance. As Rhea worked, the ship began to shake violently. Alarms blared in an alien language, and the constructs outside grew more aggressive, throwing themselves at the team in desperation. The device finally activated, emitting a high-pitched whine. Let's move, Drake shouted. They raced back through the corridors, fighting off constructs at every turn. The ship's interior began to collapse, sparks and debris raining down around them. The team reached the hatch just as the core detonated. A massive explosion tore through the ship, engulfing it in a fiery blaze. Drake and his team were thrown clear, landing hard on the battlefield below. They looked up to see the alien vessel disintegrating, its fragments raining down like shooting stars. The Deathworlder fleet regained power, their systems rebooting as the alien energy dissipated. Cheers erupted over the comms as the team watched the sky light up with victory. Rhea let out a shaky breath, collapsing onto the ground. It's over, she said, her voice trembling. Drake nodded, though his gaze remained fixed on the horizon. For now, he said, but if this was just one ship, we need to be ready. There's no telling what's out there.